So things are brewing in Mexico, ladies and gentlemen. And I know the timing is not great concerning the fact that, Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving is coming closely. And it's usually the big travel season where people like to go away to sunny destinations or looking to Mexico. They're looking elsewhere. And riots are erupting in Mexico City in particular. This is from the AP. Says thousands protest crime and corruption in Mexico City as Gen Z, or do you say Gen Z, protests gain momentum. So a lot of people are protesting in Mexico City here. It says several thousands of people took the streets of Mexico City on Saturday to protest crime, corruption, and impunity in a demonstration organized by members of Generation Z, or do you say Generation Z? But which ended with strong backing from older supporters of opposition parties. The demonstration was mostly peaceful, but ended with some young people clashing with police. Protesters attacked police with stones, fireworks, sticks, and chains, grabbing police shields and other equipment. The capital's security secretary, Pablo Vasquez, said 120 people were injured. 100 of them were police officers. 20 people were arrested. In several countries this year, members of this demographic group, born between the late 1990s and early 2010s, have organized protests against inequality, democratic backlisting, and corruption. The largest Gen Z or Gen Z protests took place in Nepal in September, following a ban on social media and led to the resignation of the nation's prime minister. In Mexico, many young people say they are frustrated with synthetic problems like corruption and impunity for violent crimes. We need more security. We need more security, said Andre Massa, a 29-year-old business consultant who carried the pirate skull flag that has become a global symbol of Gen Z protests. Arzibeth Garcia, a 43-year-old physician who joined the protests, said she was marching for the more funding for the public health system and for better security because doctors were also exposed to the insecurity gripping the country, where you could be murdered and nothing happens. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum still has high approval ratings despite a recent spate of high-profile murders that includes the assassination of a popular mayor in the western state of Michoacán. How do you say it? Michoacán. Whatever you pronounce that. In the days leading up to Saturday's protests, Sheinbaum accused right-wing parties of trying to infiltrate the Gen Z movement and of using bots on social media to try to increase attendance. This week, some Gen Z social media influencers say they are no longer back Saturday's protests, while elderly figures like former President Vince Fox and Mexican billionaire Ricardo Salinas Pliego published messages in support of the protests. Saturday's marches were attended by people of several age groups. The supporters of the recently killed Moroccan mayor Carlos Manzo attended the protests wearing the straw hats that symbolize his political movement. The state is dying, said Rosa Maria Alvia, a 65-year-old real estate agent who traveled from the town of Parazgo in the state. He was killed because he was a man who was sending officers into the mountains to fight delinquents. He had the guts to confront them, he said, of Manzo. Now, some people have stated that these protests could be engineered, that there could be a PSYOP movement to this. And some people have also said that about the Nepal protests, that it wasn't just social media that people were upset and, causing this disruption, but because there was billionaire backers of these protests that were going against the government. And how many times have we seen that before? That's going back to, the Tea Party movements, the demonstrations that were supposed to be against the Republican Party that seemed to have good intentions, but then all of a sudden the Koch brothers got involved. And we started to realize that why the Koch brothers got involved is because they want to overthrow all the government so they can have less regulations on them, so they can do whatever they want. That's why they backed these organizations. Same with Black Lives Matter. It had good intentions in the start until billionaires got invested into it, and then you know what exactly happens. Or even just recently with the No Kings protests. They're not angry at the fact that Mark Carney is acting like a king, or King Charles, or Keir Starmer of the UK that's implementing digital IDs and ruling you with an iron fist, but they're angry at Trump because Trump goes against their narratives, goes against their agenda, and their agenda of the neoliberalism that they want to incorporate into every aspect of your life. So this is what's so troublesome about this. Like, I feel the frustration with younger demographics. I understand why, protesting that, but the moment I saw, where was it here? The moment I saw predominant figures like the former president and Mexican billionaire published messages in support of the protests, it really starts to scratch your head a bit and makes you wonder if these are truly intentional, if they're actually in good faith, if they're actually grassroots with a positive message on why Gen Z is doing this, or do you say Gen Z? Or if it's just billionaires trying to sow discourse, once again, by engaging in this civil war mentality to try to overthrow the government for their own measures, for their own conclusions, for the fact that they want to overthrow the government so they don't have to deal with restrictions, so they can do whatever they want and have massive takeover. How many times have we seen that before? So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see on what's happening here. And some people said that about Nepal, that it's not organic, that it's a psyop. So I can't really say exactly what's happening because I'm not up in, Mexican politics or Nepal or whatever. But that's what's happening, folks, that there's riots happening about. Here's Table Salt saying Gen Z is on the rise here in Mexico because they are the first generation to have access to enough information to know that their entire government works for the cartels. That's true. But you know who else works for the cartels? The United States government, the Canadian government, the intelligence agencies. It's almost like they're colluding together to try to stir up the distribution of drugs and mind control chemicals into our systems so they can continuously oppress us, just like the war on drugs taught us. All the crack that got smuggled into predominantly black and brown neighborhoods, that was done by the CIA. Why? So they could seize control of the black and brown neighborhoods. That was their way to control people, to manipulate people. And now it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. So here's people protesting in the square. I'm assuming this is the government's White House, if you will, the president's building. And look at all the people here. And now they're dousing them. Looks like smoke bombs. But let's take a look at this. So they're throwing smoke bombs into the crowds of protesters. But look at how many people are there. How many people are there? And it's funny, you don't hear this story in our mainstream media because, God forbid, if someone looked at this and actually heard this story, it might convince them that, hey, people might actually have power. People might actually have the ability to get together to try to stop the nefariousness of the governments. That maybe Canadians can look at this and go, wow, we can actually go against Mark Carney. That we don't have to comply, that we're not useless, that we don't have any power or influences, that you're nothing to them. That you're actually a very powerful figure when you come together and have a grassroots movement like this. But that's to be determined because, again, it kind of does warn me, it kind of grits my teeth to know that there's billionaires backing this, that there's other people. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Here's Fox News even covering this because, of course, Fox News once they hear cartels. Obviously, they're going to try and sham this up. But listen to what they're leaving out in this conversation, because they're talking about Mexico and their governments, which obviously the Claudia Sheinbaum, a Jewish Mexican president, is deeply involved in the cartel industry. There's a reason why she got selected to become the Mexican president. But watch what Fox News says about this and listen to what they're leaving out in conversation.
The president of Mexico is furious. She's calling Mexican Senator Lili Tellez a traitor for coming on Fox Noticias with me a few days ago and saying this. Listen.
The help from the United States to fight the cartels in Mexico is absolutely welcome, and that is how the majority of Mexicans feel. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians. That includes President Sheinbaum.
By the way, Trump's not doing that. I hate to burst the bubble again to you, but Trump's not doing that. It's the complete opposite. He's actually bombing fishermen from Venezuela. Why? So he could start a war with Venezuela, overthrow the government, and take their resources. It's nothing to do with the cartels, because people have stated if they actually want to stop the cartels, why are they not getting ICE officials in America to stop the neighborhood grow-ups that are happening? Why are they not going to the mountains of California, where they're operating huge amounts of inventory of meth and fentanyl and elsewhere? Why are they not stopping them? Why are they going into Walmarts and Home Depots, dragging out employees? Why are they not stopping the cartels? Why are they not stopping MS-13? Oh, that's right, because the U.S. government is infiltrated with these gangs, infiltrated with these cartels. A lot of their support comes from the CIA directly. So Fox News is trying to point the finger directly at Claudia Sheinbaum, which rightfully so she should be blamed for this. But at the same time, they're leaving out the entire story of the construct of the cartels, meaning that the cartels are infiltrated by the intelligence services to bring the drugs here purposely. Purposely. How many years have the war on drugs have been ferociously against people, and it did not stop the drug flow? It did not stop cartels. It actually gained more for the cartels because the CIA told them to boost up the distribution into low-income communities, particularly of brown and black descent. They purposely did that. Anyway, see the more of this.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responding, saying, quote, "It's not a minor issue that a senator gave an interview to a foreign media outlet calling for intervention." Here to discuss is that Mexican Senator Lili Tellez. Senator Tellez, welcome to Fox Noticias. I'm just going to get right to it. Is Mexico a narco state?
Yes, it is. And we all Mexicans know about it. And Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels that have infested our nation.
Can you explain this alliance between the president, her party, the Morena party, and the cartels?
Yes, the party has financed, has given, the cartels have given so much money to these politicians, narco politicians of Morena, to get into office, to get the power. So they protect. The Mexican government protects the cartels. That is why President Sheinbaum doesn't want the strong American leadership to help Mexico defeat the cartels. And also Sheinbaum doesn't want the rest of the world to know what is happening here in Mexico. We are on the steps to be the next Venezuela. She is aligned with Venezuela.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? We're on the verge to be the next Venezuela. Oh! How great it is. How great that timing is to be on Fox News to state that as they're trying to enforce a war with Venezuela. Oh, we're going to be exactly like Venezuela with all these cartels running around, donating to Claudia Sheinbaum. Oh, God, Trump needs to start invading Mexico right away. We need infiltration right now. I mean, didn't those late night 80s, PSAs taught you nothing? What happened to the just say no? What happened to that? Do you have to bring an egg and demonstrate your brain when you're fixated on war powers, when you're fixated on the lies manufactured by the narco-terrorists, meaning the Pentagon, the CIA, the FBI, Homeland Security, that's all involved in this? Again, how many decades has the war on drugs ferociously attacked people? Did it stop the war? Did it stop drugs? Did it stop cartels from continuously running? No. In fact, it gave them more power. It gave them more clearance. It gave them more cover, because all they did was went to poor communities and start harassing black and brown people, which ironically is happening right now through ICE. Saying goes, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes. It often rhymes. So this is what I'm seeing here. It's history rhyming itself. That, we're going to be like Venezuela, and we need President Trump to intervene into Mexico because it's a narco state. Just like we got to beat up your neighbor down the street because, he's a no-good drug user, and he's a suspected of terrorism. He's going to threaten our community. But not go after the people that manufacture this whole thing from the get-go. Gotcha.
Dictator with Cuba, and we are losing our country. They have destroyed our Republican institutions, the democratic state, and we must.
Here we go. We got to bring them democracy. We got to bring Mexico democracy. We don't want to be like that socialist in Venezuela that got continuously voted in because Venezuelans actually like that guy. We can't allow that. We need Americans to intervene. Come on. We thought this Jewish Mexican, socialite that is part of the WEF, we thought it was going to work out, but, we need more of that. We need more globalism. Probably she doesn't go full forth and say Mexico should be the 52nd state, after Trump may or may not take over Canada. What an absurd joke this is. Obviously, of course, and this is on Fox News, so that your grandpapa, who's losing his marbles, can watch this and go, oh my God! America needs to take over Mexico! I knew it! We gotta cancel our travel plans. We're staying here. We're going south. We're going to Arkansas, and that's it. Let's see some more.
We all Mexicans want and welcome the support of the United States to assist Mexican people against the cartels that have us all in this crisis with the traffic in fentanyl and migrants.
So her response to this, and I know this because her spokesperson came on our show in response to your interview, and they say, well, we just turned over 26 cartel members. We're working, we're sharing intelligence. What are they not doing? And why is she so resistant? She sort of speaks out of two sides of her mouth. We're working with you, Trump, and then she's chastising you for saying we need more help from the United States to crush the cartels.
You know what she's doing? She's being a politician. That's what a politician does. You have that public and private position. I'm helping you guys. I swear I am. That's your public. And then privately, you're saying, no, I'm going to give the money to the cartels so they can continue to facilitate. And the drugs will still pour in so we can take control of poor people. That's the private position. So, again, this has been going on for decades. This is nothing new, unfortunately. This is nothing new. That intelligence agencies, politicians, governments from both Mexico and America, and even so in Canada, have all orchestrated to continue to facilitate these drugs from into pouring into your communities, because this is a means of control. This is how they control and operate you. And that is what, the war on drugs have taught us over the years. That's what all this is incorporating. And here's this senator from Mexico, going on to Fox News, because, Fox News is already going to be on board with this. And he usually immediately uses the magic words of, we're going to be turning into Venezuela. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's why Trump needs to go in and bomb Mexico. Like, how absurd this all is. How absurd this all is. And not really resorting to actual comprehension, understand that there's cartels within your own backyard. If Trump or Claudia Sheinbaum or Mark Carney actually want to do something about stopping drug trafficking, they have every opportunity to do it right now. They could send troops in there. They can get the militaries to shut down these grow ops that are happening in your backyard. They could easily do that, but they're not. This is all complete theatrics. This is all manufactured to try to stir up controversy. So then Trump can go in and say, look, civil unrest. Look, they're going to turn into Mexico. Look, all the cartels. It's going to affect America. So maybe we got to start a war with them. Go figure. Go figure. And why I don't believe this for a second draws back to this. So Max Blumenthal, who has talked extensively about Venezuela, he does great work on the Gray Zone. He's an actual journalist, not like, people on television. That's why they hate him so much, because he actually does the work. Max Blumenthal reminds us, you designated the CIA as a terror organization. Or will you designate the CIA as a terrorist organization? So he's saying this to Marco Rubio. And Marco Rubio, whose family is in narcotics, they're drug traffickers. Just to let you know about that. He says that we need to designate Cartel del Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. Headed by the illegitimate Nicolas Maduro, the group has conducted institutions. So he's trying to pin Venezuelans as terrorists. Why? So he could start a war with them, take over their region, and hijack their resources. Just like we've constantly been doing for decades. The reason Al-Qaeda and ISIS exist is because America created them. They need a terrorist organization to fear you into war, so we have a reason to go in that country, slaughter those people, take their resources, and get out of there and screw everyone in between. It's been going on for decades. And here's Marco Rubio once again gaslighting you into that proposal. But Max Blumenthal says, will you designate the CIA as a terrorist organization, because it was the CIA which created the cartels. The CIA created these cartels in the early 1990s to ship 22 tons of drugs into the United States. Today, the cartel of the Suns does not exist. It is a fantasy. You're spinning another WMD fraud. And how do we know this? Because 60 Minutes covered this in the 90s. 60 Minutes covered this. And here's a bit of the breakdown here. I'm not going to show the full clip, and we can't really show you the video footage because 60 Minutes, they're very heinous on copyright. But here's a bit of audio to show people of this. And listen to their little report here about the CIA being a part of the cocaine trafficking. This is in the 90s. This is mainstream television that they reported this on. And they want you to believe that, no, it's Venezuela, it's this country. And they don't want you to know that the CIA purposely does this.
A ton of cocaine, pure cocaine worth hundreds of millions, is smuggled into the United States. Sound familiar? Not the way this ton of cocaine got here. According to what the former head of the Drug Enforcement Administration told Mike Wallace, this drug shipment got here courtesy of what he calls drug trafficking by the CIA in partnership with the Venezuelan National Guard. While rumors of CIA involvement in drug trafficking have circulated for years, no one in the U.S. government has ever before publicly charged the CIA with this kind of wrongdoing. And it's not the kind of accusation anyone in government would make without thinking long and hard.
Let me understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America by the Venezuelan National Guard?
Well,
In cooperation with the CIA?
that's exactly what appears to have happened.
Until last month, Judge Robert Bonner was the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. And Judge Bonner explained to us that only the head of the DEA is authorized to approve the transportation of any illegal narcotics like cocaine into this country, even if the CIA is bringing it in.
Let me put it this way, Mike. If this has not been approved by DEA or an appropriate law enforcement authority in the United States, then it's illegal. It's called drug trafficking. It's called drug smuggling.
So what you're saying, in effect, is the CIA broke the law. Simple as that.
I don't think there's any other way you can rationalize around it, assuming, as I think we can, that there was some knowledge on the part of CIA, at least some participation in approving or condoning this to be done.
Judge Bonner says he came to that conclusion after a 2-year secret investigation conducted by the DEA's Office of Professional Responsibility in cooperation with the CIA's own Inspector General. And what reason did the CIA have for promoting this drug smuggling?
Well, the only rationale that's ever been offered is that this would lead to some valuable drug intelligence about the Colombian cartels.
Over half of the Colombian drug cartel's cocaine crosses the border with Venezuela on its way to the United States and Europe. Back in the 1980s, the CIA was mandated by then-President Reagan to develop intelligence on the Colombian drug cartels. And so the CIA, with Venezuela's Guardia Nacional, or National Guard, set up an undercover operation, a drug smuggling operation in Venezuela that could handle the transshipment of the Colombian cartel's cocaine on its way to market. The plan was to infiltrate the cartel, and it worked. For the CIA National Guard undercover operation quickly accumulated this cocaine, over 1.5 tons, that was smuggled from Colombia into Venezuela inside these trucks, and then was stored here at the CIA-financed Counter-Narcotics Intelligence Center in Caracas. The center's commander and the CIA's man in Venezuela was National Guard General Ramon Guillén Davila.
I tried to work together with them. I was always aware that they were not telling me everything they were doing.
Annabelle Grimm was a DEA agent with 18 years' experience when she was made agent in charge in Caracas. And she says that the CIA station chief, James Campbell, and this man, Mark McFarland, the CIA officer in charge at the center, told her that to keep the undercover smuggling operation credible, they had to keep the cartel happy. And the way to do that was simple. Deliver their dope, untouched by U.S. law enforcement, to the cartel's distributors, their dope dealers in the United States.
The CIA and the Guardia Nacional wanted to let cocaine go on into the traffic without doing anything. They wanted to let it come up to the United States, no surveillance, no nothing.
In other words, you weren't going to stop them in Miami or Houston or wherever. These drugs were simply going to go to the United States and then go into the traffic and eventually reach the streets.
That's what they wanted to do, yes. And we had very, very lengthy discussions where I told them what the U.S. law was and the fact that we could not do this.
So here you got Jim Campbell, chief of station, who knows about this. Mark McFarland, CIA officer, knows about this, and are stimulating this business of sending what are uncontrolled deliveries of drugs, smuggling drugs into the United States, right?
Right.
Why in the world would they want to do that?
As they explained to me, that this would enable them to gain the traffickers' confidence, keep their informant cool, and it would result in future seizures of larger quantities of drugs.
There you go. The CIA is involved in trafficking, cartels, and narcotics. They are as much to blame as the Mexican government. And notice Fox News does not mention a word about this. Notice how no one wants to bring attention to this, even though they are as guilty as day for the mess of the fentanyl trafficking, the Oxycontin, everything that's been going on for decades. And they're okay with this. They're okay with this. 60 Minutes, ladies and gentlemen. That was a 60 Minutes clip. They did a whole entire segment about how the CIA got together with the cartels and allowed for trafficking under their watch. They allowed it to happen. They allowed it to happen. That's been going on for decades. So I don't know what I could say about this other than the fact that people are waking up to this. You know, there's a lot of younger people, obviously, with social media influencing more information that could actually bring attention to this. But again, you know, pointing the finger strictly at Claudia Sheinbaum when there's more and more perpetrators like the CIA be involved in this is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem because they don't want the problem solved. They do, however, want you to be fear-mongered and, you know, propagandized and brainwashed to believe that, you know, Mexico is this narcotic state and that's why we got to bring troops in there. We got to cause a war right now because it's not just the drugs, it's also democracy. It's also humanitarian. Look at the people on the streets. You know, all the same crap you hear every single time to manufacture war. And I don't know about you, but considering the fact that the Ukraine war is not wrapping up, the fact that there's still the genocide going on in Gaza, there's still wars being perpetrated left, right, and center, even shadow wars that you had no idea about, and Trump's trying to manufacture a war with Venezuela, and now they bring Mexico into this. Like, how far can we go until we just announce that World War III is happening? It doesn't look like it, but it's happening. Because you have all these countries battling out, duking out, killing each other for nonsense that is manufactured by top criminals that are the worst of the worst. They are the wrench of humanity. They are the cancer of human existence. They're the ones causing these problems. They're the ones that are manufacturing these narratives because they don't give a damn about you. And this is why, no matter what happens, the cartels are still going to be on top because they're backed by the CIA. And they're just allowed to prosper because it's all about control. It's all about controlling populations. And how do you do that? You allow drug traffickers and whatever else they traffic to flourish. And then you go punish the users. You go punish the people in your neighborhood that aren't trafficking, that did not bring all these narcotics to your towns and communities. That was done purposely by CIA, purposely done by federal agents and informants, done purposely. Just an absolute detriment. That was 60 Minutes informing you that.